And Alex pointed out that, of course, this has been something, there's a Democrat connection to the KKK that goes back a long way. And so we have a document about that from John Bound, a kind of investigative report where he goes back and shows you the history, the real history of this. Because we've taken a lot, Alex took a lot of hits from MSNBC and the Young Turks laughing about this. And it's like, really? Really? You're not aware of the history? It's out there. All you have to do is look at it. So John Bound's got a great report on that. We're going to be coming up with that. But I want to take your calls about CPAC. Because, you know, no matter what these guys are doing, we got two different groups really that they're offering us, and we would like to have some other choices, but they've got pretty good control over the electoral process. They pretty much shut any independents and third parties out of the debates, even out of the ballots. You've seen how they rig the electoral process and the primaries. And when I talked to Ben Swan about that, we've got an interview that's going to be airing on the Nightly News the next couple of nights. We talked a great deal about that because he covered that really well during the 2012 election series. But we need to get involved now to make sure that we've got reasonable choices, and that's both in the Democrats as well as Republicans. Right now, the Republicans are all presenting themselves possible presidential candidates, as well as people who just want to weigh in on policy at CPAC 2014. That's happening right now, began yesterday. And we've had people like Marco Rubio speaking there. Rand Paul is going to be talking today. We've had John Bolton weighing in on how he thinks that America has become isolationist. Really? We've got Phyllis Schlafly talking about immigration. Of course, Marco Rubio did not say anything about immigration. We also have Ted Cruz talked about, guess what? Getting rid of the IRS. Let's get a round of applause for that. The IRS has been a criminal organization used as a tool against political enemies for generations. But now they're doing it in the open even after they get caught. They take the Fifth Amendment, even though you're not allowed to take the Fifth Amendment on your tax return. The arrogance and the criminality of this institution and the fact that they're now tied into Obamacare and the fact that we've got senators like Ted Cruz talking about getting rid of the IRS because of this obvious corruption now. I find that as a very positive thing. I remember 20 years ago we talked about this in the Libertarian Party and people say they're not going to take you seriously until you stop talking about getting rid of the IRS and the income tax. Well, you know what? It's an idea whose time has come. We need to look at the corruption. We need to think about other ways that we need to fund the government. Actually, that the IRS doesn't even come, the income tax doesn't even come close. Doesn't even come close to funding this government. Because most of the funding of the government is a burden that we're placing on future generations. Most of the programs of this government are funded by debt, not by taxes. And those debts will be paid by taxes by future generations to come. But let's talk. Well, I want to take some phone calls right after this special report. I'm going to go to John Bound's report. But I want to get your take on what we've seen here at CPAC. I hope you're paying attention because you should pay attention right now as to what these people are saying. That 800 number is 800-259-9231. I want to take calls about CPAC. We're going to talk a little bit more about what some of these people have said in the last couple of days. And, of course, Rand Paul will be talking this afternoon, and you've got a lot of buzz on NPR and other news outlets saying that Marco Rubio is going to be the opposition to Rand Paul, the anti-Rand Paul. So let's talk about that. So give us a call at 800-259-9231 if you want to weigh in on what some of the people have been saying at CPAC. But right now, let's go to this special report from John Bound. Again, MSNBC and the Young Turks are laughing at the idea that there was ever any connection between the Democrats and the Ku Klux Klan. Well, here's the report.
I mean, Alex Jones may sound crazy, but still has 300 million YouTube. He had 300 million people that have watched him on YouTube. And that sort of fringe, arch-conservative, deeply, I think, racist strain is being tapped into at crazy profit by people in the media.
Well, it is. The Democrats have been on the offensive for far too long, deeming any who oppose their views as racist. But many people don't realize that it was the Republican Party that spearheaded the abolition movement, beginning with Democratic Republican Party member Thomas Jefferson. Yes, Jefferson was a slaveholder, but he included bold anti-slavery language in the original draft of the Declaration of Independence. That was removed. As president on March 2nd, 1807, Jefferson signed the act prohibiting importation of slaves. This act took effect in 1808 and was the earliest allowed under the Constitution. In 1863, Republican President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves held in the Confederate States. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution took effect in December 1865 and finally ended slavery throughout the United States. That year, the Ku Klux Klan was founded. Historian Eric Foner observed that basically the Klan was the military muscle behind the agenda of the Democratic Party, the plantation owner class, and all those truly afflicted with a mental disorder that is racism. The Klan's purposes were to reverse the interlocking changes sweeping over the South during Reconstruction, to destroy the Republican Party's infrastructure, undermine the Reconstruction state, reestablish control of the black labor force, and restore racial subordination in every aspect of Southern life. By any means necessary, the Klan sought this agenda by threats and violence, including the murder against black and white Republicans. The federal government passed the Force Acts to combat the Klan, but they rose up again. More than 2,000 people were killed, wounded, and otherwise in Louisiana within a few weeks prior to the presidential election of November 1868. Although the parish had registered a Republican majority of 1,071, after the murders, no Republicans voted in the fall elections. White Democrats cast the full vote of that parish for Republican Ulysses S. Grant's opponent. The KKK killed and wounded more than 200 black Republicans. 13 captives were taken from jail and shot. A pile of 25 bodies was found in the woods. The Klan made people vote Democratic and gave them certificates of that fact. Furnifold Simmons, a Democratic chairman, ranted about the pervasiveness of black power in an editorial for the Raleigh News and Observer. The Republican Party has the Negro on its hands, and it has to pay some respect to his wishes, the Democrat explained. Furthermore, to hold the Negro solid, the party must give him local offices in the counties and towns where he is numerous. If the party gives him these local offices, then bad government must follow, the Democrat reasoned with obvious stupidity. In 1939, Planned Parenthood pioneer and leftist Margaret Sanger began the Negro Project. To bring people along willingly, she enlisted black preachers to support sterilization. She outlined the deceitful plan in a letter to Clarence Gamble of the Procter & Gamble empire.
We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population.
During the 1950s and 1960s, the Klan forged alliances with Southern police departments. Several members of the KKK groups were convicted of murders and the deaths of civil rights workers and children in the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. Meanwhile, a group of African-American students enrolled in Little Rock Central High School in 1957. Their enrollment was followed by the Little Rock Crisis, in which the students were initially prevented from entering the racially segregated school by the governor of Arkansas. It took the intervention of a Republican President Eisenhower to allow the Little Rock Nine to make American civil rights history. As the horrors of the national civil rights battle dragged on, Democratic President LBJ was pressured to sign the Civil Rights Act of 1964, outlawing discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and the Voting Act of 1965, designed to enforce the voting rights guaranteed by the 14th and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution. But behind closed doors, LBJ said this: "These Negroes, they're getting pretty uppity these days, and that's a problem for us since they've got something now they never had before, the political pull to back up their uppityness. Now, we've got to do something about this. We've got to give them a little something that's just enough to quiet them down, not enough to make a difference. I'll have them, N-word, voting Democratic for the next 200 years."
And it's so frustrating to see all of this unfolding and the fact that they're using race-based politics to say, turn your guns in or you're racist. Support Obamacare or you're racist. And whites have been so conditioned to be politically correct that they could say, go jump off a cliff, white person, or you're racist. And the average white person would probably jump off a cliff, even with their newborn baby, if ordered to do so by Rachel Maddow or Ed Schultz.
The horrific history of the Democratic Party, all but forgotten. Gradually, the Republican Party that had been carrying the torch for the rights of all men was painted into the white Southern racist party by the Democrats.
They're trying to act like they have no connection in the past and in the present to what I'm talking about, literally preying on your ignorance.
Welfare that had supported the poor white man now went to the 70% of the minority population that gleefully shifted over to the Democratic Party, not even realizing that they had been led into a life of welfare and a system designed to destroy the family. This report is not an endorsement of either party. It is simply the history that we must relearn or be doomed to repeat.
See, the globalists are playing everybody off against everybody. That's why we have to unify around ideas and liberty, not around skin color.
Exactly right. Great special report there from John Bound. We have to wake up to the games that they've played. We have to not get total amnesia about history. If we allow them to flush this down the memory hole, we will never really understand how we got to where we are and how they're playing people. I love the quote that John Bound had in there about LBJ, where LBJ said, we have to give them just enough to quiet them down. You know, they do that not just to black people, they do that to everybody. And they try to make us think that they're on our side. You know, the other part of this, the Planned Parenthood part of this is something that is still a non-negotiable plank of the Democrats. That is at the core of the party. And to understand where this is coming from, the fact that they have not distanced themselves from this. Look at all the statistics that have come out lately about how the vast majority of abortions are black. The vast majority of black pregnancies end in abortion. This is still a policy of racial extermination, just as it was designed to be at the very beginning. Important not to forget that, important not to allow them to bring up the charge of racism every time we have a disagreement with Barack Obama. He was elected by a majority of everyone. And now he says people hate him because he's black. It's like we've just discovered that he's black. Come on, it's baloney. But let's take a look at CPAC. I wanted people to call in and give us their opinion if they've been watching the speeches that are going on at CPAC, because we have to try to fight this with something. I think the major fight is really not going to be over who the president is. I don't really think the major fight is with anything in Washington. I think Washington has become so corrupt, as we can see in the Republican leadership. I personally have doubts as to whether or not we're going to see any change come from that quarter. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be engaged. It doesn't mean that we give up on that. But I think that really where we're going to see change come is from the states. And let me just kind of back off before I get into this, the CPAC stuff. There was an article that was in New American today about the Oklahoma House votes to protect property rights from the feds and from the UN. This is where I think our bigger hope is going to come, is at the state level and at the individual level, where we take responsibility for things, where we understand our role as jurors, our role as citizens, where we stand up for those rights. But that's an educational issue. That's an information war issue. But let's take a look at what the Oklahoma House of Representatives just did. 66 in favor, 26 against. They passed the Oklahoma Community Protection Act that would nullify Agenda 21 and other outside assaults on individual rights in the state, specifically property rights. And this is what one of the key sponsors, Oklahoma Representative Mike Ritz, said. He said it's very important for states to reassert their sovereignty and to protect the rights of citizens from intrusive and oppressive measures that are coming down from the federal government, even from international organizations like the UN. And we understand, too, that the UN Agenda 21 is something that is typically enacted at the local level. And so it's important that this bill has protections against eminent domain confiscation. It would put stiff penalties for violations of citizens' property rights by officials, would nullify any anti-constitutional federal or international infringements on private property. It would protect property from being acquired by eminent domain, because that's really where UN Agenda 21 is being enacted. It was an agenda that was created by the UN. It was a pattern, a template. But the way that it's being implemented is locally. And so they're going to protect people from arbitrary eminent domain. He points out in the article, and this is interesting, of course, the bill was less than 3 pages long. If you get a 1,000-page bill, somebody is trying to hoodwink you. The Bill of Rights could be printed on a single page. So this is 3 pages long. makes it clear what's going to happen. And listen, it's got some teeth in it. Damages shall be awarded in favor of the property owner at an amount not less than 10 times the property value as assessed in the previous year by the county assessor. So if they come in and take your property, you're going to get 10 times what it was last assessed at. We need to see things like that happening at the state level. We need to see people getting involved, but it's also important to pay attention at the national level, because we need to go on the offensive and try to take back Washington, which has been totally co-opted by corrupt international globalists. So it's interesting to watch what these people are saying. Now, Marco Rubio spoke at CPAC, and he said essentially that we need to be the world's policeman. He's taking up the neocon banner. And also, this is a guy who has taken up the banner for open immigration and amnesty. Why is it that Rubio is taking such unpopular opinions? Listen to what he says. He says, no, we need to have America get involved, be active and engaged, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be involved in 15 wars. Oh, maybe like only 4 or 5? But come on. The fact that he and John Bolton would say that we are becoming isolationist and disengaged. You see Marco Rubio siding with McCain, siding with Lindsey Graham on these issues, on the issues of immigration. You see him siding with them on the issues of perpetual war, of the neocons. People need to wake up and understand what's going on. Now, of course, Marco Rubio didn't say anything about immigration at CPAC, but Phyllis Schlafly talked about it, and she had a lot to say about how foolish it was to back amnesty when most of the people coming in under amnesty are antithetical, opposed to individual liberty. They're opposed to independence. They're opposed to all the things that people who are looking for limited government, they're voting in overwhelming numbers for the people who are giving them an ever-increasing, ever-metastasizing state. So we need to make sure that we have some kind of control over immigration just to let this country survive. And, of course, John Bolton comes in and talks about a rise of isolationism as we're on the doorstep of Russia trying to restart the Cold War. What is John Bolton thinking he's going to do?
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.